Welcome to Dungeons & Dragons and Dining and Dudes, a podcast where a group of friends get together and play D&D. Featuring an actual play and a homebrew campaign, we celebrate not only D&D, but everything that goes with it. Hosting, cooking, playful banter, few drinks, and much more. Thanks for joining us, and please visit us at dndanddnd.com for more information. Our tale begins with Thias Featherbrew in an open field. A half-elf male, though young, has made himself a decent living providing his services as a hunter. The wind breezes across his face as he looks outward across the horizon. His piercing blue eyes stare out, and about 500 or so yards he sees the ocean. The smell of the breeze enters his nose as he takes a deep breath and exhales. He closes his eyes, wanting to lay down and relax, but just as he takes an ounce of respite, his hunting senses kick in, and he remembers he has a job to do. He and his employer need food, and without it, the coming weeks are going to be a lot harder on both of them. He begins to head towards the ocean, thinking there might be some better luck towards the beach. As he marches onward, he hears a crack of thunder, but sees no cloud over the horizon. Continuing onward, he draws closer to the beach. The sky begins to change. He's unsure for how long he's been walking, but Thias doesn't recall being out here long enough for the sun to begin to set. From blue to orange, the colors in the sky begin to coalesce together. Another crack of thunder is heard, this time in front of him. As he continues to look forward, he begins to see clouds swirling over the water. At first, he's caught off guard by such an abnormality. Being a successful hunter, this isn't something he's seen before during his travels. As the clouds begin to accumulate and form together, more and more thunder can be heard, and now, for the first time, he sees lightning actually brighten the sky within the mass. Suddenly and without warning, Thias is pulled to the precipice of the beach. He looks down, and the hunting boots he was wearing are now gone. He feels the ice-cold water hit his feet, and once again, thunder shakes the ground around him. The sky begins to shift colors again, from blue to orange, to red, to a dark night sky. The winds begin to pick up, and without notice, he is lifted off his feet into the ocean. With no ability to stop, he is thrown with a force he's never encountered before, and is hurled towards the great storm cloud. As he draws closer to the cloud, he is suspended in the air, and suddenly, all is calm above him. A peaceful quiet, that is, until he makes the mistake of looking down. His stomach begins to sink. A cold sweat takes over as the world below now appears to open up. Fire and darkness, ash and lightning, destruction and decay, all circling below him. Thias hears the scream of people crying for help. The area around begins to crack, break, and shatter apart. Then suddenly and without warning, he drops, falling closer and closer towards this unknown, chaotic, devouring piece of nature. As he free falls faster and faster towards what can only be described as the end of all things, he forces his eyes to stay open, and in doing so catches a small glimpse of something. For a moment, time stands still, and whether his descent into chaos has slowed or something else is occurring, Thias catches a glimpse of another world, a world covered in shadow, and one that causes his blood to freeze. The last thing he remembers is the lack of light, as he continues to fall deeper and deeper. Hello? Hello? Hey, you okay? Thias appears on a bench in the middle of Transitus, having nodded off for a quick nap. A passerby notices he was having trouble getting out of what appears to be a nightmare. Thias shrugs off the confusion and glances upon a tiefling male, a slight red tint in his eyes, curled horns, and a slender build. Thias lets this tiefling know that he's okay, and asks his name. The tiefling pauses for a moment and responds with, "Snake." "Snake?" Thias asks again, as if wanting and waiting for the rest of his name. "Yes, Snake," the tiefling responds. Thinking the name to be odd, but still a bit shaken up by his nightmare, the two begin to talk about the day. Sitting in the middle of the town square, Tyus and Snake share a few words as the market square in the town of Transitus begins to beat with more and more commerce. As the local merchants are walking to their destination, Tyus begins to get a disturbing feeling in the pit of his stomach. He hears something, but unsure of what it is. He looks at Snake, who is looking past Tyus and towards the temple. Snake nods to Tyus and motions behind him. As Tyus turns, a half-orc male with turquoise hair walks over. "Mind if I sit?" he asks. The half-orc is intimidating in size, but moves like a swift breeze. Not wanting to decline or cause issues, the two move aside and allow him to sit. The half-orc stretches out and places his hands on his chest. "Don't mind me, just having a bit of a nap," he says as he starts to close his eyes. No sooner had he sat down than Tyus begins to have that feeling again. Another minute passes and both Tyus and Snake begin to hear more commotion from the north gate. This time, however, they begin to see people run towards them in panic. "It grew back its limbs. Everyone run. You can't stop this thing," one of the townsfolk screams, running past the trio. "The guards, my God, the guards are getting slaughtered," another person yells. "Send for help. Save yourselves. It's got bloodlust in its eyes and has descended from the mountains." At this point in time, Tyus, Snake, and the half-orc all standing at attention. Coming from about 100 feet away, it stands. A green mountain troll. Furious and angry, the troll shows multiple cuts and wounds across its stomach. But as they witness these wounds, they begin to slowly heal. The troll, making its way towards the town center, has a guard in its hands. With little effort, it squeezes the guard and instantly shatters his body. The guard falls limp, and as he does, the troll takes one bite through the guard's helmet and gnashes through the equipment, hitting flesh instantly. His skull broken apart, he throws the expired guard onto the floor. The troll bellows out a loud roar, and as it sees the group in the distance sitting by the fountain step, and starts to approach. As it approaches, a dragonborn male joins the trio. Larger than the half-orc and adorned with golden scales, his green eyes lock onto the troll. "Come, Zamir," he says. "We have work to do." Without hesitation, Tyus and Snake follow them. With a combo of slashes from the dragonborn and Tyus' blade, Zamir pulls out his bow and dots the troll with multiple hits. The troll, wounded from the first batch of blows from the group, begins to heal. As more townsfolk run for their lives, the dragonborn instructs the nearby guards to save the citizens, any that they can. "Tyrannus, we can use your help over here," Zamir shouts. "We need something to stop it from healing," Tyrannus orders back. Upon hearing this, Snake approaches the troll. With it engaged with Tyus and Tyrannus, he throws out his hands as his eyes turn red and flames begin to shoot from his fingertips. Searing the troll across its body, it growls in pain. "Now!" yells Tyrannus. A flurry of slashes and arrows cover the troll, and with a final slash from Tyrannus' sword, the troll collapses. As a quiet returns to Transitus, the guards thank the group for their help. Near the tavern, named Drinks and Things, the tavern keeper yells out to them, "Free drinks on the house, for you boys." The tavern keeper greets the group and extends her hospitality. Lily Whitewell, the half-orc woman, thanks them for everything and lets them know that if they need a space to stay for the night, it's on her. As they spend time resting up, the group talks about the fight and what each of them are doing there. Tyus, traveling and hunting. Snake, sightseeing a bit. Tyrannus and Zamir on a bit of pilgrimage to fulfill Tyrannus' paladin duties. After some more time of additional drinks and further chit-chat, a man walks into the tavern and introduces himself as Samson Bane, captain of the Transitus Guards. He lets them know that trolls are never really any threat and never come down from the Den Badir Mountains. In fact, he can't recall the last time something like this happened. That might explain why they performed so poorly, they all think to themselves. Samson employs the group to go find out what could have caused the troll to want to leave the mountains. He offers them gold in exchange, and while the group is good with this, Snake takes Samson aside and asks for information about someone named Vance Leakery. Samson agrees to do what he can. The group rests up after a busy day and starts the morning gathering horses and supplies. They head north to the Denbadir Mountains, a location covered in forests and caves. As they travel further north, they come across an area protected by goblins, which are easily handled with a combination of arrows and slashes from Zamir and Tyrannus. Further north, they enter an abandoned mine. Littered with old mining equipment and carts, they slowly make their way through debris and webs. Stumbling across old carcasses, they make the mistake of upsetting the home of a Grick, which also happens to get the attention of a giant spider. Wasting little time in showing his prowess, Zabir makes little work of the Grick, while Tyus and Snake take out the giant spider. Not wanting to waste time, the group finds a path along the minecart trail, which takes them outside the cave. Reaching outside, they see something strange. Small lights dancing in place. As they walk towards these lights, they begin to investigate the area. Snake and Tyrannus take turns swiping at these magical lights, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Their fingers wave right through them, undisturbing the lights. As Tyus goes up to one of the lights, he sees something more. Unsure if he's having an hallucination or some type of spell is playing tricks on him, he sees someone past the light. The being looks at him smirking, dangerous, blades in hands. Tyus grabs his head, trying to concentrate on the light, on this person on the other side. He starts to walk towards him, and as this happens, Tyus opens his eyes, fighting past any pain or fear he has felt before. In an instant, his eyes begins to glow. The floating lights shatter, and the being that was walking toward him is now out in the open for all to see, cloaked in dark garbs and his face being covered. He looks out towards them. "So it seems there's more than you than just the old man in town," the being quips. "No matter. My mother won't permit any of you to live, for chaos shall reign." Sporting short swords in both hands and a crossbow on his back, this agent of chaos attacks the group. As the group descends upon him in a 4v1 style fight, the agent moves quickly, dodging blow after blow until Snake fires a few magic missiles to turn the tide. Tyrannus and Tyus follow up in quick succession as Zamir fires a shot that hits him dead center. The agent looks at them and begins to laugh. And laugh. And laugh some more. "Chaos will reign," he says before erupting into fire and exploding into ash. Nothing is left from the agent of chaos. No body, no remains, nothing. As if vanishing into thin air. Tyus relaxes for a moment as his eyes begin to dim. He winces in pain, not knowing what happened, and confused about the agent's last words. The group, quiet and somber, begin to travel back to Transitus, confident that they at least know what drove the troll to the city. Finding their way back to Transitus, the group spends time recuperating and buying supplies. They seek out Samson Baines and tell him about this so-called agent of chaos. Not convinced, Samson plays this report as some type of lunatic who's stirred the beast up north. Still, he thanks the foursome for their work and, as promised, pays them in gold. Staying the night once again at Drinks and Thinks, the group gets ready to set out. Before they do, Samson meets up with Snake to deliver some information. He tells him that there's a recent arrival of one Marcus Pimble, a resident on the island of Minima, and someone who might have ties to Vance Leakery. Using this information, Snake finds Marcus and corners him into talking. Marcus, a thief, knows Snake as a fellow resident of Minima, but more importantly, as a fellow tradesman in thievery. While Marcus operated alone, Snake was an initiate of the Thieves Guild on the island of Minima. Marcus lets Snake know that Vance is looking for him, and he has set people out all across Centrum to find him. If he wants to keep his head, he'll keep a low profile. Meanwhile, Tyus, remembering the agent mentioned an old man in the city, stumbles across Lars Picklery. Lars is blind, but using his gift, Tyus notices his eyes have a subtle glow around them. As the two begin to talk, Lars discusses with him how he's chosen to protect the balance. He will pronounce him as a warrior of order, and though sounding a little crazy and hysterical, will tell Tyus that chaos is running rampant across Centrum and all of Statera. Portals, which are normally invisible, are slowly opening from the Chaos Realm, and if left unchecked, will allow Chaos to sway the balance in her favor. Lars tasks him to investigate a portal to the east of Transitus, near the lake. Afterwards, he tells them to head to Whiteport, as there are men there who might be able to help them further. Having their own reasons to join, Snake, Zamir, and Tyrannus follow Tyus to the lake. When the group arrives at the lake, all is quiet. If no one had told them, nothing about the lake would seem unusual. Being compelled to summon his gift once again, Tyus begins to concentrate on the large tree that overlooks the lake. When doing so, a bright flash occurs just inside the shallow part of the lake and reveals a portal. Wasting no time, the group runs towards the portal, and as they do, a combination of Kenkus and Magmans pour out. While Snake, Zamir, and Tyrannus face the foes, Tyus moves towards the portal, not sure what he should do. Getting closer to the gate, he stretches out his arms and connects with it. Summoning an unknown strength, he begins to force the gate to close. As the battle around him continues, the other three do all they can to keep Tyus from getting hit. A few more Magmans jump out of the gate, and as they do, are met with swift execution from Tyrannus and Zamir. Tyus continues to push himself further as he begins to see the gate close, smaller, then smaller. Just as he approaches the last amount of strength, he sees a large beast approach from the other side of the gate. With little warning, an Ankh jumps through the gate just as it closes, severing one of the beast's leg. Taking advantage of the situation, Tyus turns his attention towards the beast, and with the help of the other three, make quick work of it. Spent on energy, the group decides to head back to Transitus instead of heading directly to Centrum. Tyus has questions for Lars. Getting back to Transitus, Tyus heads off to find Lars to talk more about who he is and what these gates are. During this time, Samson asks to see Snake, saying he has more information for him. Walking into the guardhouse, Snake notices about 6 or 7 guards eating. Samson walks into his office and invites Snake in. He tells him that he talked to Marcus, and that he knows who Snake really is. He knows there's a bounty on his head for a huge heist that took place on the island of Minima. He knows that he was once part of the Thieves Guild. Out of courtesy for what he's done for the town, Samson allows Snake to come clean. Before he can, a commotion at the front of the guardhouse. Tyus, Zamir, and Tyrannus barge in, demanding to let Snake go. Tempers unfortunately get the better of everyone involved, and through a combination of doors slamming, arrows being flung, and Tyrannus using his large frame to block the exit, many are left battered and bruised. As Snake holds Samson's life in his hand, he tells him to forget any and all of this, to forget his name, and to let things go. Samson agrees, telling him that he only wanted the money to make Transitus a better place, not for greed. Snake nods, letting him go as the group wastes no time in setting out for Centrum. Arriving at Centrum in a few days, Tyus tells the group they need to find Lance Disri, a dwarven man who has a shop of exotic wares. Talking to Lars and giving him a special token, Tyus was told to give this token to Lance. Apparently, Lars and Lance are old friends. Finding his shop and giving him the token, Lance greets them as a friend of Lars. After some conversation regarding how they know him, he will invite them to a special section of the store, an invitation-only section. Here, in Lance's special library, many exotic weapons and items can be seen. Beautiful swords, rings, armor are all protected in glass cases, and protected by Lance's personal bodyguards, 2 orcs that go by the name of Matok and Furbog. Thinking the group stole the coin from Lars, the 2 orcs attack, but are subdued easily and without any lasting repercussions. Lance apologizes as he tells them Lars, himself, and a man by the name of Manus all used to adventure together in their youth. He mentions Lars's gift, which Tyus replicates for Lance to see. Settling this misunderstanding, Lance tells them to choose 2 items in the library. Tyus grabs a beautiful crystal sword, Zamir a pair of archer bracers, and Snake, the con man he is able to persuade Lance into giving him a ring of protection. Satisfied, Lance tells the group that Manus Strongbeard can be found in Whiteport, operating a tavern and doing quite well for himself. Arriving at Whiteport during the day, the group will be greeted by the hustle and bustle of fishermen, open markets, and the incoming and outgoing of ships. The salt sea breeze is noticeable as fishmongers can be heard across the town peddling their recently caught wares. After some time walking around and seeing the sights, they find Manus operating his establishment, the Thirsty Guppy. Upon arriving, the guppy is filled with plenty of patrons and all in good spirits. Manus is seen behind the bar, cleaning some tankards and tending to some of the patrons. Striking up a conversation with him, the group tells Manus all they've come to know, how they met Lars and Lance, and Tyus' gift. They even tell him about the gates. Hearing all of this, and after he convinces them to buy some drinks, he takes them upstairs into a side room that is noticeably empty but spacious. On the floor is an orb. Using Tyus and his gift, the orb activates. As if his gift is amplified, a light projects different points on the ceiling and around the room. Certain points are brighter than others. Manus explains to them that when they first fought back the Chaos Gates many years ago, Lars, Lance, himself, and a few others were able to take some of the magic of those gates and create a beacon that would show them the locations of current gates, or more accurately, locations of high amounts of chaotic magic that are in the process of breaking through. While this was helpful, Statera is a large world, and their numbers were few. However, feeling the orb would be in better hands with the group, Manus offers it to them. Before ending the ritual, Manus and the group notice a high concentration of chaos magic towards the north past Whiteport and near the frozen northern tip. Feeling a bit exhausted afterwards, the group head back downstairs to relax and have a meal. They meet a couple of few sailors that strike up some conversation, noticing they are out of town. One particular sailor, Baldric Fosterman, takes notice to Tyus because of his appearance. Thinking he resembles an old friend, he will remark that it's almost like he's looking at a ghost. Asking Tyus where he grew up reveals that he lived near the port of Alu, just south in a small town called Myaloon. Hearing that, Baldric apologizes. He tells Tyus he knew his father. He knew Frederick and Lena Rohair. He tells him that he remembers him as a small boy, almost a spitting image of his father. He remembers how, around 15 to 20 years ago, how the kingdom of Alboria and the surrounding areas were a harsh place for non-elves, and how a human and elf being married caused many issues. He remembers one such issue when the fighting got more violent than usual, and a human knight, full of pride and anger, struck out against some of the elves, one elf being Tyus' mother. In defense of her son, she slashed at the knight's face, leaving him scarred, but ultimately, her and Tyus' father met their end at that riot. After that, the king and queen of Alboria abolished the town, wiping it and the events that took place off the map. Baldric looks at Tyus and tells him his parents would be proud of the man he is today. During this time, Snake notices Marcus Pimble in the corner drinking himself into a stupor. Taking it upon himself, Snake has Marcus walk with him outside the city. He asks why Marcus sold him out. He demands retribution. Marcus, laughing at the irony, says Snake is a thief, and there is no honor among our kind. Snake agrees, and being far enough outside the city, chooses to burn Marcus alive. Meeting in the morning, the group decides to head to the northern tip and investigate whether or not a gate actually exists. During their journey north, they meet a red-haired elven woman by the name of Urza Zonis. She tells them that she was heading north as well, but she was robbed by those she employed to accompany her. Sensing something in Tyus, she reveals she also has the gift, and together, the five of them find a cave brimming with chaotic energy. With the help of Urza, a gate is found that inhabits stretches, ghouls, and a minotaur. With a combined effort, the gate is closed and the enemies vanquished. Before leaving, Urza asks how many gates they've come across. She tells them she's only started to control her power recently, and that if they are willing, she'd like to join them for a while. Heading back to Whiteport and settling down for the evening, the group is approached by some guards asking if they know whereabouts of Marcus Pimble. Denying anything, they avoid the initial suspicion. The following morning, Snake hears a knock at the door. Guard tells him to follow him. As he's unarmed, Snake agrees. They walk out of town and to the same location where Snake burned Marcus alive. The guard takes off his helmet and introduces himself as Sotheby Baxton. Not a guard, but an investigator. He tells Snake he knows Marcus wasn't an innocent soul, but he cannot condone what's been done. Snake will claim self-defense, and Sotheby reluctantly agrees. He tells him he's not there to bring him in, but he could use the help of him and his crew. He mentions that a string of thefts have been ongoing in Centrum, and he was up in Whiteport following a dead end. He wants to employ the group to help. He figures a thief might be able to find information that he cannot. Agreeing to the terms, Snake and the crew follow Sotheby back to Central. Once the crew arrives in the kingdom, they begin to spread out in teams to investigate the stolen jewelry. Speaking to different merchants and even Lance, they fail to ascertain any specific motive or operation that's going on. After some more time investigating, a royal procession starts as guards begin to clear the way for the Queen of Central, Jessamine. The procession leads out from the castle and head towards the council building. The Queen stops before entering to say a few words to the people of Central, commenting on the recent weather and the prosperity that the good people of Central have had, and how she's heading into the council building to begin talks on additional work and construction throughout the city. As this is happening, Tyus and Snake notice that Urza is nowhere to be found from the group. As they glance around, they spot her walking towards the Queen. She looks back and cracks a small smile while casting a spell. They see her body begin to shimmer and reflect in the sunlight. After that, different colors start emanating from the crowd. A small murmur begins to start amongst the citizens while the distraction continues. Jessamine, unfettered, begins to finish her small speech and head towards the door of the council building. It is at this time Urza appears and grabs the Queen, placing a knife against her throat. She looks out amongst the crowd. She stares directly at Tyus, and as if time stops in that moment, he sees her mouth. Chaos will reign. She slices across the Queen's throat, and as the guards charge towards her, an eruption of darkness begins to emanate from that location. Panic spreads as people begin to cry in horror and fear, people running for their lives in all directions. As some of the guards make their way out of the darkness, they point towards the group, saying that they saw her with them. Surrounded, the group needs to act, and fast. This concludes Chapter 1, New Friends and Shattered Dream, which covers the first 8 sessions of our campaign, The Balance Within. Keep following us for the next podcast, which will take us through the events of Chapter 2, Chaos Spreads, Darkness Descends. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.